Hello, hello. Hit the start, scroll it up. There, love it. So good. Look at this, another bright, sunshiny day. Callie's ready to do yoga. Are you ready to do yoga? Let's do a little yoga together here. Okay, I think that is all good. Beautiful. I don't know where I put my phone for a clock, but we'll make it work. Well, hello. What's going on, hey? Just today we've got on the schedule a nice little happy hips class for you. Doreen, good morning. Welcome, welcome. Yes, happy hips today. I actually really love these happy hips classes, because there's so much, like they're a nice gentle class with a few little options of this and that. Oh, look at this dog. She's just ready to get her pets in this morning, hey? How wonderful. Why, hello, is that Karina? Good morning, Karina. Oh my goodness, you're making it in. Yay! Does that mean hello to Jordan and the kids? Jordan and Melody? You should say hi to them. Oh my goodness, so amazing. What a party. Oh my goodness, yoga party this morning. This is great. Oh, perfect. How wonderful. And thank you for commenting. Dropping these comments in and gets you entered into the draw that's happening on Friday, because this is the last week of free video, so I thought I would celebrate and make it a party. So yes, little comments get you entered in, because then they know that you've at least, I don't know, tuned in for a couple seconds, or at least just dropped a comment, which is awesome. Every day you can be entered in, and so be sure to be catching in with that. And then Friday, I actually have a really busy day on Friday, but Friday at some point we'll get the draw. Maybe I will do a little announcement post and do the funny wheel thing that Karina does, so that we can all like tune in for it or whatnot. So giving away some free yoga classes, because these classes are transitioning into the studio, but I'm trying to make them available virtually as well. So that is on the chopping block. We've got it set up, but just working out a few kinks. So I did a couple test classes this last weekend to figure all of that fun stuff out. But let's get into some yoga this morning. Let's just dive right into our practice. If you have any questions about any of these transitions that are happening, feel free to send me a message or drop me a comment, and I will gladly help you stay connected. I guess I also want to mention that I am still going to try to do a free yoga video every Friday. So I'm going to make Fridays my crazy yoga day. And we'll try to do at least something. It probably won't be a full-length class, but it'll be something that made like a nice half an hour, 45-minute little video that we can work in, because especially this next Friday, the first Friday in August, is supposed to be your chair yoga day, and I don't want to miss out on that. So that's what's going on here. I feel like I haven't actually read any of these messages. Oh my goodness, just everyone just being so awesome. Oh, you're so nice, Karina. You're so beautiful this morning. I wish I could see you. This morning, Facebook reminded me that 4 years ago, Jordan was babysitting Callie while we were trying to move. Remember that little picture? I'll have to share it later. Okay. Mango matcha this morning. That's what's happening in the cup, which has me vibrating. Might have to be a little slightly more active class, but hopefully you have your matcha too. Okay, let's just start to center in. Let's start to settle in and try to focus in, starting to connect in with the body and how we're feeling. Maybe you're sitting in a little bit of sunshine and you feel that warmth of the sun on your face or on your body. Just starting to feel just what you're feeling, and just starting to notice. And maybe as you close your eyes, what are you connecting in with first? Is it something like the temperature of the air around you? Is it maybe a little part of your body that might have some tenderness or some soreness to it? Maybe some tension. Maybe we can start to relax some of that tension there. Maybe take just a big inhale breath and sigh it out. So breathe it in nice and deep and exhale. That helps soften and start to let some of that go. Maybe roll those shoulders back and down. And just a gentle tuck of the chin, finding a little length through the spine. And maybe start to relax that jaw, you clenching the teeth together. Can you just relax all the muscles in the face? And keep connecting in with that breath. Let's work on a little bit of breath this morning. I'm working on breathing with the nose. So let's take a nice big inhale breath slowly through the nose. Breathing it in. And exhale through the nose as well. Taking just a few of those. If you try to breathe too fast through the nose, you can create some interesting sensations and some interesting noises, which could be fun to play around with. But ultimately, the goal of breathing through the nose is it automatically forces you to start to slow down that breath. My very first yoga teacher used to always say, noses are for breathing and mouths are for eating. And so just trying to make that switch to just breathing in and out through the nose. I'm a sucker for that exhale through the mouth though, because I like that sensation, that relaxing sensation that comes with that. It also helps me cue the breath for you guys. I can make a little bit louder of a breath noise breathing out through the mouth. But keep that nice connection. See if you can start to notice the temperature change as you breathe that air in through the nose and breathe out through the nose. Maybe even bring a hand just in front of the face to really kind of cue into that a little bit more. Our breath is one of the ways that we can cool the body. So breathing in slightly cooler air, and breathing out, usually the air becomes a little bit warmer. Excellent. Let's take one more nice big breath in. Filling not just the lungs, see if you can start to connect into the diaphragm. Take that exhale, nice and slowly letting it go, relaxing. And if you'd like to set an intention for your class, go ahead and do so now. Just a little word, maybe a little phrase, a goal or a purpose. It doesn't have to be anything complicated or fancy. It's just for you. What is your intention for our time together this morning? Excellent. Start to wake up the body. Maybe starting to get a little wiggle into the fingers. Maybe wiggle into the toes. Maybe start to roll those wrists and ankles. I'm going to roll on back and down into a reclined position. So if you're already there, you just hang out. Or if you're in a seated or sitting on the couch position, come on, join me. Try not to crush my puppy dog's tail. Excellent. Roll those shoulders back and down, even on the floor. Feel all that surface area there. And let's take that nice good morning stretch. Reaching those arms up overhead. Ooh, my body is trained to yawn here now. Nice little stretch on the jaw. And exhale, just let the arms hang heavy, still overhead. And if you notice, I started with my feet planted, knees bent. It just feels better on my back, but I do like to also find that length. So now I'm going to extend the legs, point through the toes, reach those arms up so nice and long and tall. Keep reaching, feel all of that openness. See if you can open a little more through the shoulders, reaching a little bit taller. And exhale, relax. Start to hug those knees in towards the chest, drawing them inwards. Take that little rock from side to side, giving that low back a little bit of love. Maybe you've got a sunburn on your back from all the sunshine we've been hanging out in, and you feel that little sting. It was such a beautiful day yesterday. I got 2 giant buckets of peas picked. It was wonderful. And then I made Neil shell them last night. Didn't make him. He volunteered like a champ. Beautiful. All right, well, let's start to get into these hips a little bit more. Let's start nice and gentle. I'm gonna plant my left foot down, just draw right knee in, just a little bit tighter, giving it a nice squeeze. Sometimes as you draw the knee in, you will start to create tension on that right side. So really squeezing it in, even if you're trying to stay relaxed, you'll feel that little squeeze on the outside of the hip. That's actually the goal here. Feeling that squeeze and then working with the body to try to relax that. So even if you don't get that squeeze to be really noticeable, even just drawing the knee in, a great way to work on the body. Callie's gonna crawl under that table now. Beautiful. Excellent. You can add that little rock a little bit from left and right, and I still have my left foot planted, so I'm gonna keep it like that just for now. Just a real gentle way to open up the hip is just that little rock from side to side. And then now I'm gonna take that right foot and extend it up nice and long up towards the ceiling. You can still be holding on to the back of that leg. Maybe you give that hamstring a little rub, maybe a little pat, bring some blood flow to the surface, to that area, as you just kind of wake it up. Now let's get into the foot and the ankle a little bit. So start to add a little flex to the foot. If you notice, I still have a little bend to my knee here. So starting off first thing here, my hamstring is really still quite tight. Hasn't quite waken up completely yet. So it's not like I'm really forcing it to be straight. It feels just a little better to have it be a little more relaxed. And then as I point and flex, every time I flex, I'm really trying to lengthen through that back line of the body. So feeling it through that calf muscle as well as into that hamstring. Option to still be holding on to the leg, but if you want a little more on those hip flexors, you can start to release that leg, using those hip flexor strengths to keep drawing the leg up. Excellent. Couple little more points and flexes. And then let's keep trying to find that leg. So maybe now you're ready. Maybe you even use that left foot to stabilize by pressing it a little bit harder. Extend that right leg really nice and long. If you already were nice and long, maybe now you start to draw the leg a little bit more in towards the body. That'll add a little more stretch and lengthening to this. So good. Let's add a little movement in here now. So starting to lower that leg, maybe all the way down to the ground. If that's too intensive, you can always bend the knee and then just tap the foot down. But really, I'm trying to keep the leg nice and long and straight. So maybe it's better to not go all the way down if you would rather not get that full lift motion happening. Excellent. So just moving it up, moving it down. If you want more intensity, you can increase the speed, but keep flexing that foot the entire time. So I've got toes pointed in as we move up and down. So really just trying to activate into that leg. How's that hip flexor feeling as we create that little bit of movement? If you want more challenge, you want to start to get into some of those lower abdominals, I'm going to just tuck my hands underneath my sits bones here. I'm going to lift my left foot up off the ground. That is forcing now my core to be active, holding that left leg up and moving that right leg up and down. So it's just a subtle little engagement that happens there. But if you're not used to doing leg lift, maybe it feels like a more engagement. Neil was telling me that I actually do a decent amount of these throughout the course of my yoga practice. And although he can do more push-ups than me, I think I can do more leg lifts than him, which is exciting for me. I'm pretty competitive, so. All right, let's take two more here. I'm not counting at all. My bad. I'm gonna plant that left foot back down. I'm gonna bend the right knee, plant that foot, and take that little windshield wiper from side to side. Starting to release some of that tension. How do those hips feel? We gotta strengthen. Can't always just have nice, delightful, stretchy classes. Sometimes we've got to build up some muscle, and we'll get to the stretchiness in a bit. But always feels so good. All right, let's find that stillness. Notice where the head's hanging out, keep that gentle tuck. And now let's bring the left knee in towards the body. Start to squeeze it in. Maybe you squeeze it and find that bit of tension that's created on that left side through the hip. I had a really interesting sensation the other day. I was teaching a yoga class. I was doing a weird twist thing and was showing different levels, and I felt like my hip was considering popping out, which was really fun. I've never really felt that before when I was working on something. I don't know, it wasn't even that extreme. It was really just like a bound twist and just that motion. So I'm feeling that on this side, that it's still a little tender in there from that. So working on relaxing in there, trying to let some of that tension go. And maybe now you add a little movement in, a rocking from left to right, just waking up through that hip a little bit. Beautiful. Excellent. And then as you're ready, I'm going to bring my hands to the back of the knee. Left foot's going to start to journey up towards the ceiling here and starting to add that nice flex in. And taking a few moments to really flex through the foot, waking up, feeling that sensation, giving those hamstrings a little bit of rub and massage, maybe a little pat on this side as well. Is there Elisa there? Do I see a hello from Elisa? Sorry if I didn't catch that earlier. Hello. Thanks for joining in on hip class today. All right, I'm going to find a little bit of stillness and work on finding some length, flexing through those toes, and now pointing through those toes. Look at all that sunshine. You can hardly see what the foot is doing, but I love it. So in the studio, we'll have different lighting. It's a little bit darker in there, so it's a little more controlled, but we'll see how that works. Pointing and flexing, taking some time in each one as you really point those toes nice and long. Maybe you start to get ready to let go of that leg. Maybe keep holding on to it as well. Try to keep those shoulders nice and relaxed. And notice, what is those abdominals doing? Are you pressing them out, ballooning them at all? Or is that belly button naturally kind of drawing inwards? Usually this is a great position to have that low back really nicely connected with the ground. All right, add that flex to the foot. Try to find that length, really drawing that heel up towards the ceiling. Or if you've already got good length there, then you're starting to draw that left leg in a little bit closer, either just by using the strength of the leg, or maybe just a couple little fingertips to pull that leg in a little bit closer over the body. And keep flexing and lengthening. And then let's get ready to add some of that movement in. So, nice straight leg. I'm starting to drop it down, finding your edge or your max. Maybe you come all the way down. Maybe you just go a little bit, totally your choice. So lifting and lowering, starting to get into that left hip flexor, building some strength, but just nice and gently, like you could do this with both legs up at the same time. But it's a little easier to focus in and do it with proper alignment as we just focus on one. So I still got my foot flexed the entire time, still extending long out through the heel, even at the top. At the top is where you'll kind of naturally add that bend into the knee, and see if you can just try to keep the leg straight. If it bends a little bit, of course, there's no report cards on this. But the intention is that leg nice and straight the entire time. And feeling that warming up sensation through that hip flexor. Maybe you've got the full burn happening, or maybe you're not feeling anything at all. If you're not feeling anything at all, you've got to pick up the pace a little bit. I'm starting to add in a little bit more. And then if you want more for those lower abdominals on this side, I'm going to tuck my hands in underneath. Right foot floats up. And then let's find that nice movement. Still flexing through the foot. Trying to keep this nice and strong. Keep connecting with the breath. Don't be holding your breath here. Excellent. Taking just a few more. How's that hip doing? Keep going. Let's do 3 more. Lowering down. Popping it up. There's 2. Here's our last one. Foot comes up, right foot plants. Bend through that left knee, planting the feet down. And take that nice windshield wiper from side to side. So good. So nice. So I'm thinking about getting into quads today, into low back, into inner thighs, all of those things that kind of surround that hip area, and then we'll finish off with a little reclined pigeon. So if you want to know where we're going, that's the plan. So let's work on getting there. Let's find that stillness and make your way up to a seated position. Maybe you hug those knees in, roll on up, and find a comfortable seat. I think there's a mosquito in my room this morning, and I have like 3 tiny little mosquito bites that are just in full force right now. How are the mosquitoes been for you guys? All right, so sitting nice and tall, feel those sits bones. A lot of times we can come up to a seated position without actually rooting down. So take that little moment to kind of give yourself that little wiggle, making sure you can feel. The sits bones are a part of the pelvis. So it's just those little bony areas that kind of protrude a little bit in towards the ground. Sometimes you need to wiggle a little flesh away from there. At least I need to wiggle a little flesh away to feel into them. It's warm just through the spine and through the arms. Taking that inhale breath, sweeping those arms up nice and tall. Bring those exhales down to hand center, heart center. Inhale, reach it up. Exhales, draw it in. Maybe you're still breathing through that nose. Big inhale breath. Breathing out through the nose. Excellent. Just a nice little twist here. So notice if you're sitting cross-legged, I have a leg on top. So if you have a leg on top, let's start with that direction first. Reaching for that knee, hand presses out and spins nicely all the way around. Maybe plants in behind you. And take that nice inhale breath and get nice and tall. Take that exhale and twist a little bit deeper. Starting to feel a nice rotation around. Keep pressing the legs downward here. Let's activate into this twist a little bit. And start to play around. Maybe you give those hips a little wiggle. Like I always say, roll left hip back or roll hip back, other hip forward. So just play around with that depending on which direction you're twisting. What feels better? What adds a little more depth? For me, it's rolling right hip back, pressing the left hip forward. Maybe for you, it might be the opposite of that. Beautiful. Let's untwist and come on back towards center. Then let's get in towards the other side. So reach for that opposite knee now. Reach forward and let's start to spin around. Planting that hand in back behind you. Inhale, get nice and tall. Exhale, maybe press a little bit more into those hands to add just a little bit more rotation. Maybe you notice your T sitting there and you sneak a little sit. Maybe you start to play around with that little wiggle in the hips. And you're finding maybe you want more twist, so you roll one hip forward. Maybe you want more challenge, so you roll that hip back instead. Just playing around with some different ways, different things. Take one more breath here. See if you can find a little more length, getting just a little bit taller. And take that exhale, maybe you find a little bit more depth, or maybe you soften through some of the muscles. Beautiful. Let's start to release. Nice and slowly come on back towards center. All right, before we go into our little forward fold, let's add a little extra challenge. So option 1, just hang out in whatever seated position you have found yourself in. Option 2, we're going to work on our fire log pose today. So, that's always fun. So whatever leg is on the bottom, it can just hang out there. Just start to bring, here, I'm going to actually just tuck my top leg aside just so that you guys can see what I'm doing. So I've got my shin and I'm trying to just square it off in front of me. So the shin is parallel to the mat in front of you if you've got one, or just making that nice straight line. So you've got top line of the leg, and then imagine your back being the back side of our little square, and then the leg kind of straight out. So think of, we're trying to make a nice little box here with our legs and with our back. And that's where this other leg, this top leg, comes into place. So now I'm going to grab this leg, I'm going to grab the ankle and attach it onto the knee. So even if this other knee doesn't come down, that's a-okay. It can still be hugging in nice and close towards the body, or however much space is there. But just imagine, so we've got shin along the front, we've got thighs to make the sides of our box, and then our back to make the back of our box. And ultimately the goal is both sits bones down, and then working with the hips. We've got lots of external rotation happening on those hip flexors, and ideally, getting knee over ankle on both sides. I get that's hugely challenging. It is one pose that I love. I find some ease in this pose, but I still feel that there's some tension there, and anytime that I do teach this in class, I know it's challenging. So if you've got like both knees up and you're crazy, or if this is like just totally insane to you, know, like how the heck did you even think about doing that? That bottom leg you can extend long. You can have an ankle just resting on the knee. You can plant the hands alongside you, and you can work on bending through that bottom leg. So just kind of like more of a seated figure four. That is a great starting point as well. And then it progresses to bringing that foot in, dropping that foot down, getting both knees down, and then once you kind of hang out here, then you can even walk forward, adding in that forward fold. But if you're laughing at me now, thinking that's crazy, I mean, I've been doing yoga for about 8 years, so you just let me know, after practicing this for 8 years, you'd think that you'd be in a different position. So it's all good. It's all about the journey with it, and sometimes when I like to see different people's progressions. That's actually why I love to practice in a studio, because I let go of that expectation that I look like anything other than what I look like. And it's really fun now just to see how people evolve a pose, or how they just do things differently. And it's inspiring to me, and I love to see people's creativity and different strengths and abilities shine through in their practice. All right, so we've hung out here for a decent amount. I'm gonna walk my hands back up and in. I'm gonna plant my hands just alongside me. Start to bend through the legs, extending both legs nice and long. Give them a nice little shake. This is where I wish I could see you guys to be like, oh, how'd you guys do? It's one that kind of requires some custom cueing. Remember which foot was on the bottom. Okay, well, let's come back into our natural seated position, whether that be legs extended or cross-legged, but this time if it's cross-legged, bring the opposite foot on top for us to just hang out there. Take that inhale and sweep those arms up, reach it nice and tall. Exhale, draw those hands in. I'll just take 2 more of these. Just to recenter, reaching up. Exhale. Draw the hands in. Last one, reach it up nice and tall. Draw those hands down. So good. Let's start to just slide our back against that invisible wall, tipping over. I'm going towards the left here. Maybe that bottom arm plants down. Maybe you start to reach that right arm up. Or you can come into the little twisty variation of it, resting elbow on the leg and reaching that arm back. Gaze goes upwards. That's just a nice little twisty side bend. Still pressing the legs down, almost like you're trying to find that tipping point where you feel like you can tip right over, but you then remember that you've got strength and power there, and you can counterbalance. All right, let's come on back up towards neutral, sitting nice and tall. Maybe even bring those hands to heart center again. Let's tip on over towards the other direction, starting to feel that stretch. Maybe you feel it connecting through the hip to the back, maybe through that side body. You can drop that bottom arm down, reach that top arm up, or coming into the twisted variety, bringing that bottom elbow onto the leg and reaching a little bit farther back, looking up, lifting through the heart, drawing the ears away from the shoulders. So good. Nice big reach. And exhale. Let's pull it back towards our seated position. All right, ready to try our fire log pose on this side. I'm going to grab my top leg and just kind of tuck it out of the way here as I now kind of bring my foot a little bit more over, aligning knee with the hip, making that nice straight line. And I've got a nice 90-degree-ish happening with the shin, hanging out here. And then taking this other leg, grabbing the ankle, connecting at the knee, and imagining this top knee connecting down towards the ankle. And so if you're hanging out up high here, this is still a great place to be as long as you can get both sits bones down. You can even bring the hands just alongside you if you need to relax it a little bit. Great option. Or even taking that bottom leg and extending it and working here, drawing that knee in. So just finding wherever you need to be for this. You can think about that box being the thighs for the sides, the shins for the top, and the back for the back. And playing around here, maybe you also add in that little fold. I mean, this pose is also known as double pigeon. So like there's that, like that just kind of tells you the challenge level that can be involved with it here, but you gotta still practice the hard stuff. Like I love teaching gentle yoga, but I also love giving a challenge as well, because you never know what you can or can't do until you try it. So better not just assume you can't do anything, you might as well try it, and I'm sure there's some version that we can find and have success in. And that is the fun, especially for things like yoga, where it's really is not a competition. Every other activity that we do, many other sports, like everything is a competition. You have to be the best and you have to earn that spot on the team, or you're competing against another team or another person, whatever it is. But in yoga, you just have to compete against your own mind and your own ego. And sometimes that is a harder challenge than physically competing against someone else. And those expectations get a little wild and crazy. How's that feeling? I hope you guys are doing good. I've added a little sway in. I think it's just straight up because I can't sit still anymore. And the matcha made me do it. That's what we'll blame it on. This actually feels really good on that one hip that I overdid it on. So maybe that's why. But we'll start to come on out. Walking those hands back up. I was actually working on my laptop last night and I found myself in this pose with the laptop just on top. So hands come alongside. Start to lean back, release, extend those legs. Give them a nice little shake. How you doing? How you feeling? Let it go. Maybe windshield wiper. Dropping knees and feet from side to side. Knees can be together or a little bit farther apart, but just straight up on camera. I like these together is good. All right. Let's find ourselves in that nice all fours position. So maybe you just swing around, tucking hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. And let's start by just swaying those hips from side to side. So really press that hip out, starting to get into that IT band a little bit, into the side of the hip. Feeling that nice little press and stretch, letting it feel good. So nice, so good. I feel like I need to look at the time here. Oh, good, we've got lots of time. Beautiful. All right, let's find that little bit of stillness. And just take a few little cat-cow breaths. So inhales to look up, press that belly button down towards the ground. Maybe press those hands in, extending that head a little bit longer. Start to tuck the chin around through the spine, press that spine all the way up. Nice little angry cat pose. Really drawing that belly button inwards, pressing the hands and shoulders, going as high up as possible. Nice, tuck of that chin. Coming back down, gaze goes up. Belly button presses towards the ground. Keep finding that extra length through the spine. Exhale, round it up. Nice and tall and strong. So nice and rounded. And Make yourself into that nice neutral position. So good. All right, we'll do a prep pose first. We won't just dive into something here. So I'm just gonna come up. I'm gonna make my way into a low lunge position. So starting by coming up onto the knees and then stepping that left foot forward. Just as it's really bright. Like it always gets a little bit brighter at some point here. And I took automatic control off because it was way too dark beforehand. One day I'll get a videographer and we'll just have crazy things happen. All right. So left foot forward, coming into that nice low lunge position, starting up nice and high. You can always adjust the distance between your knee and your foot. So if you're hanging out here and even right here, you're not feeling anything anywhere, first try rolling left hip back, pressing right hip forward a little bit, just squaring the hips towards the front. And if you still got nothing, then that's a good indicator that you can draw that back knee just a little bit farther back. Starting to come up. Trying to keep that left leg nice and bent. So the adjustment of the knee back forces the hips to go forward so that the hips are no longer stacking over top directly of that back knee. So that's when you start to add a little length through that quad, through that hip flexor. You know, that hip flexor we worked this morning with those little leg lifts. So you can just hang out here. If you are finding that too intensive but you like the spacing distance, adding that little bow forward is one way to immediately soften it without changing the foot position. So starting to feel that stretch where you want. You could even start to add a little bit of a pulse and just being really gentle on that knee. Maybe grab a little pillow or a folded blanket, putting it underneath that right knee, or folding your mat over if that's enough. So just starting to add just a little bit of movement here. Doesn't have to be major. And just so that you can find that edge and have that little release. It can even be just really kind of a little micro movement. Keep remembering to breathe. And if you want to engage a little more into that low back, take a little moment, draw that belly button in, kind of imagine pressing that low back outwards. It's a little bit more challenging to do in this low lunge position opposed to say in that chair position because you've got your legs going in those opposite directions, but still doable. Excellent. Beautiful. How's that back leg feeling? Hopefully you're starting to feel a little release, a little openness, a little length starting to happen there. Keep pressing those left toes in towards the mat. Like I'm using the ball of my foot as well as the heel. And I've got my arch nice and active through that left leg. So I'm still feeling something on this left thigh as I'm pressing forward. So maybe you are as well. Beautiful. Finding that little bit of stillness. I'm now going to start to straighten through that front leg, coming into that nice little runner stretch, changing this into a hamstring stretch. So feeling that on the left side, the toes might start to pop up off the mat, flexing the foot inward. You can stay up nice and high if that's enough of a hamstring stretch for you. Or you can start to add that little bow forward. You can just plant the hands in on the thighs or on the calves, or reaching fingertips down. If you've got two blocks, blocks are an awesome tool to have here. And if you still want to be working through that back leg, we can add in a little half hero pose here. So this is ultimately what I want to work on today. So maybe you try just sitting back a little bit and coming back up. Or maybe you sit all the way down either on a foot or next to the foot. Your hips will tell you what you naturally want to do. This doesn't change anything for that hamstring stretch. So if you want to just focus in on the hamstrings, then go right ahead, letting that be your focus and maybe staying up a little bit higher. But now I've got footwork happening here, so that's sitting on the foot. And then I've got quad work happening here. And if you want to get a little more into the quad, that's when you bring your hands alongside you, maybe even start that lean back. So still foot flexed, Still that lean back. And if you want a little more still, then that's when you press the hips up, getting more into that quad. But your own choice with what your edge is at today. Excellent. I was checking out my schedule for August, and I will be teaching yoga 14 times a week. So it's a fun little challenge. Maybe I want to challenge you guys to try it every day. We've been doing the 5 days a week. So whatever you've been normally doing, can you add in an extra day or two and trying to work on that challenge? All right, let's start to journey on out of this. So if you've got the sitting on foot and lean back, let's start to sit up a little more. I'm pressing into a hand. Just make yourself back up and into that low lunge position. So just meet on back, however you need to get here. There's all different levels and challenges in there, and if you went a little too deep, you might have just had to straight up roll on out of it. I've been there and done it. All right, let's come on back to that nice neutral position. Bring that left knee in, and right foot now steps out. Beautiful. So you can adjust that distance, roll that right hip back, press that left hip forward, squaring off there. Maybe try getting that front knee right over the ankle or the foot. Also make sure that it's not falling outward, but more so falling inward. That's a little bit more common as for that little alignment. So maybe you heel toe that foot a little bit closer in to help protect that there. If you want that little more, you can start to press those hips forward. And if the knee is really going over the foot, then that's when you can adjust that stance, making it a little bit longer, starting to feel that left hip flexor, left quad, either hanging up with shoulders over hips, or maybe you just add that little bow down and in, and playing around with however you want. Maybe you start to add a little bit of movement in. I like a little mixture of more of these bigger movements, starting to release some of those bigger areas of the muscle. And then as we start to feel that, then you can get into some of those little micro pulses and getting into some of those smaller stabilizing muscles. So both have value, both are good. Excellent. Beautiful. You can even switch between the two. I feel like you just need a few more of these bigger ones. Keep trying to keep those hips nice and square towards the front. Excellent. And find that little bit of stillness. And let's really activate into that right foot. So I've got knee over the foot. I'm pressing into the toes, into the ball of the foot. Maybe even heel lifts off for just a moment for you to root it right back down, stomping into the heel, into that outer edge of the foot. And arches is lifted. Imagine that knee is a little dial, just kind of activating into that sideline, outer sideline of the leg. So nice and strong here. Beautiful. All right, let's start to press into that right foot, straightening through the leg. Maybe those toes lift up and off. And getting that nice hamstring stretch. Option A is just staying up nice and high. Like there is no shame in just working here and working on flexing the foot. There's a bit of balance work that's happening here as well. Maybe you add that little bow forward. And planting the hands. Hands can stay on the hip. If you plant the hands down, you'll keep a little bit of a flatter back, not compensating into rounding the back. Beautiful. Or if you're ready for it, we can work on walking those hips back. The front foot does need to move here. So mine draws in a little bit. And then I sit them down onto that left foot. I'm a sit on the foot kind of person. You can do the same thing by sitting just off to the foot. You just have to be really careful with that left knee. Still that flex. And even if you just work on that bow forward here, great hamstring stretch. A little bit happening on the foot and the ankle, but if you want to get more into that quad, hands kind of press alongside the body or even just a touch back. Then you start to lift the hips. And just finding that nice quad stretch. Maybe still flexing through those right toes, maybe not. Starting to feel maybe a bit of openness. Maybe this is harder on your foot than it is on the quad. Excellent. Playing around. I don't know, you gotta just try it. Today is the class of just trying new things. Beautiful. Alright, well, I'm gonna work myself out of this nice and slowly, bringing the shoulders back over the hips and starting to press on up, bending through that right knee. Maybe walking it forward, coming back into that low lunge position. And we'll take a little moment here so we can all meet back in that low lunge. Excellent. Maybe you press those hips forward. I'm getting one more stretch. Maybe you sneak another little sip of tea. Beautiful. All right. Well, I want to make myself or my way up into a forward fold. I've got two options for you. You can tuck those back toes under, either arms on the knee or kind of reaching down towards the ground. You can lift through that back leg and step forward, or you can come on back or really just kind of stand up and then make your way down. Just make sure you protect that low back. So I like the low lunge, high lunge step forward. It's a little bit nicer in the transition, but I've got to use a bit of balance to get there. So here is some more hamstring stretch and release for us here. Just straight up in a forward fold, or if you notice on me, I've got the half lift happening. And I've got my hands planted into my legs. I'm rolling my shoulders back and down, head extending nice and long. Not quite ready to do the full forward fold yet. Just kind of working with it. You can even add that little pulse in here as you work on lengthening through those hamstrings. And then maybe you start to just bring the hands a little bit farther down, finding your edge of your forward fold. You can even pedal out the feet a little bit. That feels good, just bending through one knee, then the next. Hi. Yoga with my doggy. I guess that's going to come to an end too. It's not like I can take her to the studio. Too bad. Good old Kali yoga. All right, let's take that inhale. Nice little halfway lift here. And bend through those knees, sink those hips, and just press all the way up to standing. Let's take a nice big stretch here. Just reaching it out, finding some length through those arms, through the body. And keep pressing into the feet. Exhale. Draw the hands down to heart center. I'm going to step my right foot back. We're just going to come into a wide-legged forward fold. So really whichever leg you want, point both toes towards the long edge of the mat. Make sure the legs are in line with each other, so not one too much forward or back. Excellent. Hands on the hips. Let's activate through the feet first. So let's just work on our posture in this pose here before we get into that nice, sweet fold version where we work on inner thighs. So press just to the inside of the feet. If you notice, I've curled the outside edge of my feet up. I'm noticing here the big toe, the ball of my foot, and the inside edge of the heel. Now I'm going to press the entirety of the foot down. Work on lifting through the arch, not rolling through the ankle though, so I still have ball of the foot pressing down, toes squeezing in. The entirety of, like, imagine you can draw a line all the way around your foot, having everything connecting in as you go. So ball of the foot, big toe, all the little toes, outer edges of the foot, heels totally connected, and then a lift through the arches. So imagine those knees as little dials, and you kind of just spin them outwards ever so slightly. Feel how that lifts and pulls those inner thighs up and in and engages through the outer thighs here. Just a little bit different with the legs being longer opposed to in that nice mountain pose. Little tuck of the pelvis, belly button draws in. Let's find some length here. Take that inhale, extend the head nice and long. Exhale, relax the shoulders. Beautiful. Let's bring those hands to those imaginary jean pockets and just tucking it right back behind you. Let's start to make those elbows invisible and drawing those elbows in, lifting through the heart. Feel that openness through the collarbone. Don't just press the hips forward though. Let's draw those rib cage in. Keep that belly button drawing in. And just having this be a nice heart opener. Maybe even imagining it being a bit more of a back bend. Maybe you tuck that chin in, gaze could go up slightly, pressing those hips forward, almost like you would do in your camel pose. Maybe you feel a little opening through the front line of the body there. Okay, let's find that neutral again. And the hips and feet nice and in line. And let's start to bow things forward. So hands still on the back, protecting that low back as we bow things down. When you feel like your spine is about to start rounding, just hang out there for a moment. Release the hands onto the legs. Maybe you press in, extend the head nice and long, just like we would do in our normal forward fold, like a little halfway lift. And then you can take that exhale, feel that crease at the hips as you hinge forward. Hands can just track down the legs, using the body to anchor in. So if you don't have blocks or a chair or something like that, you can just prop up using the legs, or you can put your hands on a chair or a stool or on yoga blocks if you've got them, or down towards the ground if you can reach. I really like being able to press my hands into something because that keeps my shoulders rolling back and down. So I've got a nice flat back happening here. Not letting my ego get in the way of needing to have my head be any lower than it currently is, because I've got so much integrity through my legs being so engaged and strong. Do you still have that outer line of the foot pressing in? How about those arches? Are the legs still super active here? Maybe you're feeling this more through the back line, through that hamstring area. Maybe you feel it a little more through those inner thighs. Beautiful. And I want to start to add a little bit of movement in here. So I'm going to bend through one knee, lengthening out that other leg, maybe even walking your hands over towards that bent knee side. So I'm accentuating that stretch through that extended leg. And then maybe walk your hands towards the other side, or you can do this with just hands stationary as well. They don't actually have to move and to get into that stretch. So just starting to rock the legs from side to side. I like that bit of movement though. I feel like I can keep my shoulders a little bit more in line with my hips as I add that in. Excellent. All right, should we throw one more crazy thing in? Might as well. All right, so walk your hands over towards that one side. And then if you want, you can work on sinking those hips down, bringing those hips all the way down. So I've got a huge bend to the knee. As you can see, my heel has now popped up off the ground. Option A is that extended leg, toes still pointing towards the long edge of the mat, or you can flip them up, toes towards the ceiling, finding yourself also in a hamstring stretch, an inner thigh stretch as well. So adding that intensity. And some people have just that anatomy where they find sitting down here really quite natural and easy. That is not my anatomy, not my jam. But I do like the stretch that happens here. You can work on the toe stand, embracing the fact that the ankle or the heel doesn't press down. Then maybe you even work on the balance. Bring the hands up to heart center. Maybe you bring up those shoulders, stacking them over the hips, pressing into those toes. Pressing into that heel of that extended leg. So good, yay! I don't know if you've tried it or not, but I'm encouraging you for wherever you're at anyways. All right, my fingers have planted back down. I'm gonna drop those extended leg toes back down, and let's start to come out of this by just gently pressing into the hands, pressing into that leg nice and strong. Make your way back to a neutral position here. Let's take a full breath, just in neutral. Letting the legs and the body reset. Excellent. If you want a little different version of that, you can actually do that same thing with a halfway lift and elbow planting on the knee, and then even just working on getting that heel up and down. All right, let's start to journey towards that other side. So maybe you walk your hands over, maybe you just hang out here, elbow on the knee, and working on lifting up into the toes, dropping that heel back down. Or maybe you want that extra challenge of lowering those sits bones down. Extended leg toes, point up. Working on that balance, pressing into those toes nice and strong. Maybe hands start to come up. Finding something to focus on that isn't moving is key. Feeling that awareness. Maybe the shoulders come right over the hips. Maybe you've got that nice flex of the foot, or you're just doing whatever you can to keep the balance that's happening here. All right, I'm gonna plant those fingertips back down. Just gonna take a little moment and focus in on that side and really flex through the toes. Excellent. And that foot starts to press back in, and using that strength of the leg and just gently pressing into fingertips to lift those hips back up and walk those hands back towards center. Finding that nice forward fold. It's got crazy stuff this morning, but I feel like we've got good stuff this morning. I'm going to add just a little pulse in here just to get into those hamstrings a little bit more. Inner thighs a little bit more, so good. All right, let's take that inhale, nice little halfway lift. Roll those shoulders back and down, plant those hands just above those knees, find that length. And then bend through the knees, start to lift the head, and then press all the way up to standing. And take that nice big reach up and stretch. Excellent, exhale. Hands to heart. And let's look towards the front of the mat, take a nice big step. Inhale, reach it up. We're just gonna journey on down here. Exhale, forward fold. How does your standing forward fold feel now? How do those legs feel? You find a little more openness, a little more depth. Let's take that inhale, nice little halfway lift. Exhale, bend the knees so you can plant those hands down. Take that nice big step back. Take a little downward dog if you want it, or you can just drop the knees. All right, let's drop those knees down. Maybe take just a quick little child's pose with the knees together. Reaching those hands forward. And then let's press forward and roll on back and down. Excellent. Onto the mats. So good. Got a little excited, a little carried away, but it was so fun, just so worth it. So I've got my knees bent, my feet planted. Roll those shoulders back and down. Excellent. We're going to come into that reclined pigeon. So starting really on whichever side, but I'm going to bring that right ankle onto left knee. Just relaxing, setting that right knee back a little bit. Taking a breath here. Exhaling. Coming back to just a little bit more neutral, not really actively pressing that knee back anymore. And then start to float that left leg up. Maybe just comes onto tippy toes. Maybe you grab onto that right ankle and knee, drawing it in towards the body a little bit. Maybe you reach out through that nice little hole, grabbing for the back of the thigh or the top of the knee. Just feeling it where you need to on that right side. Notice how we're getting into even different muscles as we hang out here. We still got a little bit of the side muscles, but getting a little deeper in. a little bit farther back as well. You can add that little rock from side to side if that feels good, or just enjoy the stillness. Trying to keep those shoulders relaxed, keeping that jaw relaxed. And take that nice inhale, maybe grow a little bit taller. And take that exhale, find a little softness. Beautiful. As much as I would love to hang out here for another like 20 breaths, I'm gonna slowly come on out of it. You're welcome to stay for longer, but I'm gonna switch over. So planting that left leg down, uncrossing the right, and take that little windshield wiper from side to side. Just getting a quick little release. Find your stillness. Knees go up towards the ceiling this time. Left ankle hangs out on right knee. Send that left knee back. Just getting a bit of a stretch here, but being gentle on the body still. Take that little inhale breath. Nice little exhale. Relax through that left side. Come just a little more back towards neutral. And start to float that right leg up. Reaching on through. You know where you're going with this now. Maybe you take that little rock from side to side. Drawing those knees in towards the body to feel that nice stretch through that left hip. Maybe you add a little pulse. Maybe you just enjoy the stillness, softness, or wherever you find yourself, can you keep those shoulders relaxed? Just trying to use that strength a little bit through the arms to keep the legs in place. So good. Taking a breath or two here. Nice big inhale. Maybe you get a little taller. And take that exhale. Maybe you add just a touch more depth in. Taking one more breath. And then on that exhale, let's start to release that foot back down. Uncross the legs. Take that little windshield wiper. Beautiful. Find that stillness. Hug the knees in towards the chest. Maybe you reach on through the knees for the feet. Coming into that little happy baby. And then here is your little freestyle or shavasana. If you have any other movement or poses you want to take before finding some stillness, you're welcome to. I'm sorry I went a little bit over, so if you need to do what you need to, you're welcome to. I will roll up and say farewell for today's class so that you can take the time you need to either playing around with some movement or enjoying a little shavasana. I do encourage you though to take a couple of nice big deep breaths, even if you've got to carry on with your day, and just take a little moment, and as you're maybe moving through, take that nice big inhale, take that exhale and even sigh it out. Let's take two more of those. I'm going to just straight up do them. Breathing in. Exhale, releasing. One more big breath in. And sigh it out. I thank you so much for making some time for some yoga. I hope you had a lovely class, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day filled with moments of joy. And I pray that you are always blessed. Namaste. Beautiful.